What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Nvidia stock, ticker symbol NVDA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Tuesday, February 20th. So make sure you remember, guys, Monday is a holiday. The market is not open, so don't be getting up and getting ready and sitting down, all excited, ready to trade. Nothing's going to be moving on Mondays, so we'll be back on Tuesday, but it's going to be a long weekend here of chart analysis on the Roensch Capital Charts channel, so I appreciate you guys subscribing. Hoping to hit 1,000 by market open on Tuesday. But let's start here on Nvidia by taking a look at the 1-minute charts. So again, the idea of this video each day is a macro look at the day-to-day levels and bias that exists in the stock to prepare for the next trading day. But listen, I'm a scalper at heart. It's what I do every day, so we have to take a look at the 1 minute just briefly and see if there's any potential opportunity intraday to maybe generate some additional revenue around a core position. So looking at Nvidia here on Friday, I mean, listen, we had some moves, and I was paying very close attention to this name all day. I watched this thing all day, every day for intraday opportunity. Unfortunately today, if you caught some trades on it, great. I prefer to only trade stocks and setups that are very clearly in play. Okay. Now, what is an in-play stock? An in-play stock has a fresh news catalyst. It's trading around, directly around a massively recognizable technical level. Typically, these are going to have elevated relative volume, okay? Or there are a few exceptions with setups, to be more particular, like my repeat offender setup that I'm always looking for. That's a backbone in my playbook. That doesn't necessarily require the stock itself to be in play, but the setup itself is very in play. Here on Nvidia today, there just really wasn't any trades with enough edge for me to be comfortable. There were just better options today. So, listen, that's not a net positive or a net negative. It's just the way it was here today. Completely different from the overall picture on Nvidia, by the way. So let's move on here to the 5 minute and take a look at the volume profile here. What did we get in terms of any changes in volume that correlate with big obvious moves in the stock, right? Was there a sample size in the market, a bigger sample size, that agreed with the bullish perspective or the bearish perspective more so here today? So, truthfully, I'm looking at this chart and we have a few obvious moves. Okay, we have this down move, we have this down move, and this up move. And you could argue this down move into the close. Volatile day for Nvidia here within not all that crazy wide of a channel, by the way. But we look here and, the opening volume is always kind of a wash unless it's contextually massive. This is normal. Okay, we did see some decent volume on this downward move here in the early to mid-morning. All right, we saw slightly elevated volume on this downside move. We saw sort of increasing volume on this upside pump, and then, of course, as we head into power hour, we saw increasing volume. Listen, this is all, the open and the power hour are normal, and then the intraday stuff, it almost, to me, you could argue a bear would look at this and say, yeah, there's a bearish lean there. I would say it's very slight in terms of the volume profile, enough so where, to me, it would feel like a force to even give that any legitimacy. So let's move on. Let's just get super contextual here on the 30-minute chart. Again, just one of the 3 big time frames we'll have to look at here, and start looking at the self-fulfilling prophecy psychological levels of that 200 period moving average and the 50 period moving average. So you can see here that these are both very much so in play come Tuesday. So from a bullish perspective, here's what I'm really looking at. Ideally, if we see a downside test of the 200 period, hold it, obviously. But really what I'm looking for is an upside test and break through to the upside of that 50 period. Okay. Now, if you're a bear, an upside test, you obviously want to see a hard rejection. But really what you're after if you're a bear is a downside test and break downside through as hard as possible through that 200 period, that gray line. All right. And that's on the 30 minute in particular. Let's now zoom out to the 4 hour, which is, again, very much so in play here on Nvidia right now. You can see here that this 50 period on the 4 hour is currently sitting just above 710 per share. and that's about 2% away. So, you know, that we've seen crazier things. We have to consider that here on Nvidia. From a bullish perspective, if we do see a downside test, you're absolutely going to want to see that thing hold. Bears, you know, what's really your goal, bears? Ideally, before earnings on this coming Wednesday, you're going to want to see us below $700 a share. That's what all the bears are looking for here. Okay, so that's going to require a downside break of that 50 period here on the 4-hour. Now, let's take a look at the most important chart of all, and that's going to be the daily. Okay, you know, again, as mentioned, we do have earnings coming up after the market closes on the 21st. That is this coming Wednesday. But listen, I mean, the story on the daily chart is the real macro story, at least in the short term. Okay, obviously longer term, the fundamentals take over. But in the short term, the psychology of the daily is really where the big money decisions are made. So the story here is relatively unchanged. I mean, it is so obvious. We're in a channel right between 700 and that 750 approximately all-time high. So what am I looking for here? Well, if I'm a bull, first of all, I want to stay above 700 as we head into earnings, absolutely. Ideally, get above 750, lock in that all-time high, trade above 750 into earnings. That would be ideal from a bullish perspective. Now, if you're a bear, obviously reject hard off of any test of all-time highs. Okay, do not get above 750. Don't even test the all-time high ideally. And bears, you're going to want to look for a really hard downside break of 7. Just that round psychological number of $700 a share. Bears, that's your enemy right now. You want to get down below that. Now, let's take a look at the bias in the options chain here from today, from Friday, depending on when you're watching this, as we head into Tuesday. Again, this is all volume from Friday, all loading up for Tuesday. Okay, 1.72 million total contracts traded. And, you know, of course, when I say loading up for Tuesday, I mean, you know, variety of expirations, obviously. So 1.72 million total contracts traded, 1.08 million calls, 636,000 puts. So we are seeing relatively overall call bias here. And that's actually relatively heavy there. Okay, now the short-term speculators, you say, well, how do you know? 0 to 20 delta, right? Those are those far out of the money, typically pretty short-dated contracts on average. 427,000 calls, 340,000 puts. Call bias in the short term as well. Now, you look at this. Every single delta range, that's going to be short term, mid-term, longer term, out of the money, at the money, in the money, right? Far out of the money and deep in the money. They're all leaning to the call side, including that overall. So listen, I mean, that's what the traders are telling us today. Okay? They're leaning to the bullish side. As always around here, this is just data. All right, this is one factor of many. Take it as you will, take it with a grain of salt. But make sure your risk is managed as well. All right, that's number one, stay in the game. Listen, if you got value out of this video, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.